Welcome to the Lighthouse for today's meditation. As promised last week, I mentioned at the end of the week that we would be honoring some breakthrough practices here at the start of our last week of live work together here in Integrative Practices for the year of 2020. And as I'm hearing myself say 2020, I'm thinking of something sort of funny that I read on social media within the past couple of weeks, and I'm just spontaneously inspired to share with you here now. Anyway, it said that 2020 should be like a new swear word, and that you could say, I don't give it 2020. Anyway, I thought that was really funny. But this is an important week. It's our last week of live work together in this historic year. I mean, this year is etched in our psyches for the rest of our lives. We will never forget what has happened personally and at a planetary level, at all kinds of levels. And so I mentioned that we're going to do these breakthrough practices. I've got a pretty robust lineup of methodologies I want to lean into, so I'm going to try and keep my chat brief. But you know, in our professional community right now, we're doing a lot of what is referred to as clearing out and moving through the records retentions, right? What it is that we've accumulated and amassed over the course of the year, and we're editing and we're cleaning out and so forth, organizing. And so we also need to do that at the level of beliefs and concepts and opinions and biases and bypasses. So all of the techniques that I'm going to give you here today are perfectly designed and are very effective when it comes to identifying your three-dimensional biases and at identifying your bypasses. This is really important in the transpersonal awakening community, which we are a part of, to be very clear around where we may have traps set for ourselves and where we maybe have been letting ourselves linger in traps for longer than is evolutionally appropriate. So there is a long list of different bypasses that we can fall prey to on the path of awakening, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but I want to name a few that I think maybe are a little hot. They're all actually really hot, but the ones that I'm going to name today might have a landing place. So we'll start with the optimistic bypass. There are all kinds of catch-cries that you hear somebody who's working with the optimistic bypass, their key phrases that you hear them say all the time. And that's a slippery one, right? Because we can think we're doing the right thing by being hyper optimistic, but these times call for neutrality. We don't want too much optimism and we don't want too much pessimism, but we want to be able to be in the middle way. The victim bypass. Oh my goodness, this is a big one. By assuming the victim archetype, you are sort of, you're sloughing off the responsibility of, or you feel like the responsibility has been lifted, and that you can move away from being responsible. Anyway, the next one is the horoscope bypass. That's another slippery bypass that we can find ourselves in the loop of. So the horoscope bypass, it's allowing some sort of external prediction to control the outcome of our life and to place a lot of weight and to give a lot of gravity to that. So all these bypasses that I'm naming are ways in which we try to not practice being responsible. And you hear me say this a lot in IP, but responsibility is the ability to respond. The spirit guide bypass, which is, placing responsibility in, you know, an animal, or in a saint, or in some ascended being, placing the responsibility in them to keep us protected, or to ward off the danger that might be coming our way. So another one, I just want to name two more, and then we'll get into the practice. But I think that it's really important to get this kind of map visually, so that we can be proactive with it. The guru bypass, you know, this is a seductive one, to think that like a teacher is going to, if we are tempted to worship a teacher, you know, and this is a big thing that happens and has been happening for forever in this work, that if we worship the teacher, that knowingly or unknowingly, that they'll fix our problems for us. But again, in this work, we want to be doing the work in a very wakeful way, so that we can become the removers of our own darknesses, so that we can identify and slay our own inner demons, and deconstruct our bypasses and our three-dimensional biases, to not just massage the biases, but to deconstruct them, to create and to remove the impasses that they are energetically and behaviorally. The last one I want to say, as I point my finger at you, is the finger pointing bypass. This is a big deal, and it's so easy conversationally and communicatively to watch it show up in your own cascade of behaviors, and to watch it show up in social contexts. Pointing fingers, which is a self-righteous quest to place the blame or the responsibility on somebody else. So in integrative practices, in this work that we do, we're 100% committed to looking within, to looking inside of ourselves, to asking ourselves the important questions, and then responding accordingly. And to use, this is important, to use our practice to put love into action, to be social artists, to be spiritual activists, to not use meditation and practice as a form of escape from reality, but to use your meditation and your practice to organize your idea and to ideas, plural, and to utilize your time to show up more powerfully in the gift and in the majesty and in the opportunity of being alive, and to be a robust meaning maker. So there's been a lot of shock in 2020, a tremendous amount of shock that has, and I was talking about this a lot in Friday's session, the shock that has led us into a state of despair as collectively, as a species. And Charles Upton said that, you know, the specific medicine for the shock of despair is the deeper shock of meaning. I love that. The specific medicine for the shock of despair is the deeper shock of meaning. So what I'm really pointing to today is that as a practitioner, we have to be meaning makers. So that means that we have to ask ourselves, what is the meaning of this crazy ass time that we're in right now? What is the meaning of it? And what is it asking? And what is it maybe even demanding of me? So I'm pointing the finger inward towards me. What is this time asking of me? And how can I become strong and empowered and illumined enough? How can I become strong and empowered and illumined enough to rise to the occasion and to rise to its demands? Inhale and exhale. So we use the practices and all these techniques to gather that humble self-knowledge, to identify where we've been setting our own traps, where we're stuck in our traps, and you know what we've got to let go of in order to show up in full stature as the timeline split. All right, so I want to get right into the first practice. And this is going to move a tremendous amount of chi in an intense way. You're going to pull the base segment of your pinky fingers down with the radiance point of the thumb, like so. And then you're going to wrap your index, middle, and ring fingers around the thumb. So you've got these fists. And then really squeeze in a kind of, don't hurt your fingers, but squeeze in a meaningful way. And then we're going to work with an open mouth breath of fire. So you create the circle shape with the mouth. And then we're going to toss the energy back. So you really are cleaning out the closet as you do this Kriya meditation, okay? So one thing about the mechanics of the breath is as you exhale, it's easy to, especially if you're learning this or you're new to it, it's easy to explore and experience this way of breathing in an isolated way, just in the mouth or in the throat. But I want to really allure you to experience the point of origin in your breathing in the ball of your belly and in the pelvic floor and in the back of your kidneys. So you're bringing in the kunda. You're bringing in all that transformational fire. Set your body on fire. Let your heart be burning with passion as you do this practice. Okay, so hold on here. I'm gonna turn on a different song. All right, so let's do this for a few minutes. Inhale huge to really oxygenate your organism. All right. Looking at the tip of the nose. Keep it going, even when I stop to talk to you. I just like to sprinkle in the Dharma as you are inside of the practice, as I would do if we were in the classroom together. So in this time when the darkness has been resurfacing or surfacing in a new way, I was talking about this on Friday. It's very seductive to go into the mind states of depression and pessimism and despair. But I want to remind you again, fervently, I want to remind you that to go into that excessively, know how to grieve, but to go into it excessively means that we are colluding with the darkness, and the darkness needs us to be evolutional agents. We need to be fully activated in our participation in regenerating, rebuilding, redesigning from the inside out for our world. A few more tosses of the fist. Bring all your naturalness and your spontaneity and a simplicity of consciousness to the way in which you are doing today's dynamic meditations, so that it can strengthen you, so that it can empower you, and so that it can illumine you sufficiently so that you can rise to the occasion and meet its demands from a place of wholeness. Good. 3, 2, and 1. Good. And go ahead and bring the practice to a close. Bring your hands to the top of your knees. So I'm just going to turn that off for a second and give you the technique for this next. This is a really good one. Another intensity-based sort of chi pushing practice that has stop points, but it also has this continuum of fluidity that I want you to really understand. Like, really be a martial artist as you are exploring the way in which you're embodying it. So the hands are going to be like flat plates, as if you're pushing a heavy wall. However, at the same time, at once, welcome to the paradox. So you're pushing, so there's that intensity, right? But you're also, with conscious effortlessness, piercing the veil, reaching through the unknown and into the unknown, and then pulling it back to embed it in the codes of dignity that you are aligning with in your awakening way. Okay, so you're gonna push, and every time you push, you're gonna be oscillating the head to look one direction and then the other direction. So notice how my elbows are really pulling back, as if they're kind of plugging into a space behind me. So I'm pulling and pushing like so. And I'm going to do it with you for the first few minutes so that you really can see it. And then again, we're doing the same breathing technique. So it's the breath of fire with the open mouth. Beautiful, beautiful practice that's all about conquering our imagined disabilities, all of the paper tigers that we believe to be preventing us from, from whatever it is that we're intending to be or become or manifest or fix or so forth. So have a look. This is what it looks like. Okay, so I want to turn on a different song for us really quick here. Where is it? It's hiding. Oh, that's very bizarre. Oh, here it is. Okay. Normally I don't. Normally I have my songs all sort of ready, but I was spontaneously wanting to. This is an amazing song. If you like Trevor Hall, it's called We in a Different Room. And that speaks volumes about this time. We're in a different room, guys. The old rules don't apply, and the new ones are starting to emerge. So we need to clear the canvas. Let's do this practice. Inhale. You were singing softly. It was a different time. 10,000 years, 2 in 1. How many moons I'm seeing? Tell me where's the time? It's a backwards river. I'm found in a blue sky mine. Now I go crazy. Now you go too. It's a different culture. We're in a different room. Shattering the facade, shattering the artifice of whatever bias or bypass maybe has been steering your ship. We're in a different room. mandala that is your mind. Up and from the belly. Full power. 3, 2, and 1. Break the practice. Hands to the top of the knees. Good. Woo. So, you do these practices and you remove the mask. You lay down the shield. You have deconstructed the artifice. And so what is left? Your essential nature. The part of you that is deathless, that is committed to compassion, that is committed to compassion in action. Come what may. That's what is left when we get to the other side of doing these dynamic meditations. They're so good for us. All right, so staying in this same dimension, we're going to do it's like a hammer. If the flat field, the plane of the hand was like a hammer, you're going to bring it in. There's a little bit of circularity in the gesture. And you're working with the pressurization, right? And there's this kind of snap release. So you are opening the heart. You are opening the heart. You are, as the old teaching goes, you are allowing your heart to open, and you are allowing yourself to be powerful enough to be vulnerable in the world, so that which breaks your heart can simultaneously steer you into action and can let the light in and allow you to let the light of your meaning and your purpose out into the world. Okay, so same breathing technique. This is worth staying with for our work today. And let's get into it, because time goes by so fast. Falling into a blue sky. Sitting up really tall. I just wanna go back again. Looking at the tip of the nose. Mother standing right next to me. Showing me what I need to see. Rain is falling into my mouth. Flowers blooming all up and down. I found healing through the body. It's healing through the body. All along, healing through the body. All along, it's healing through the body. All along, healing through the body. It's healing through the body. All along, healing through the body. All along, it's healing through the body. Good. Break the practice. Bring your hands to your lower dantian. Place your hands physically, place them physically on your belly. And breathe, and maybe make a little noise like I did, in a way that allows you to really presence with what you just did for yourself, with what just moved. Those few practices moved a lot and aligned you with the good medicine of the work, aligned you with freedom. Freedom from the virus of the mind, like I was talking about at the end of last week in our work there. And freedom from both despair and hope. Freedom to live your life in the middle. To live your life in the middle. Alive as a self who is calm, a self who is resolute, and like I was saying a few minutes ago, a self who knows his or her deathlessness, the part of you that is the same as the beginning of time, that is alive in that expression now, and that will endure into the mystery. Knowing your deathlessness, being committed to compassion in the most radical way. Compassion in action, to put love into action, to awaken the love that has been lying dormant, your love for yourself, your love for your life, your love for your family and your community and your dharma and your professional work, and the dreams and visions and commitments and devotions that are calling you to the adventure horizon. Let today's practice really create a kind of winter bonfire in the hearth that is the abode of your human being, to create a winter bonfire there that gives you the strength and the empowerment to stay illumined, to stay bright in the darkness, to be a maker of meaning, and to be awake in our world. One more really deep, full-bodied, omnidirectional breath here. And then exhale with a little bit of sound, let it out of your mouth. It's my wish for you that for the rest of today, you really experience yourself as an embodiment of infinite potential. Be a human potential activist from within yourself, just for today, test drive it. To be a human potential activist for yourself, from within yourself, and then start to see how that sets up a new camp inside of your consciousness, inside of your neural networks, in a way that allows you to grow in ways that you never even knew were possible before. I look so forward to seeing you soon, maybe even as soon as tomorrow. Take extraordinary good care of all that needs to be cared for in this time. Sat Nam and Namaste.